Hey there, YouTube. I'm Jack, and this is Raw Tropical Living. Thanks for joining me today. Hope you're all doing well. We're getting a little bit better weather here in South Alabama. Not quite the fall that I would like, but hey, gonna go out here and get some sun right after I do this video, so life is good. Anyhow, today I want to talk about how soon for results on a raw food diet. And a couple of thoughts on transition. Guys, if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please go down there and hit that subscribe button now. Then click on the little bell and check send notifications so you'll stay subscribed to the channel. Oh, I wanted to mention something too in regard the other day when Instagram and Facebook were down for the day. Now, I don't foresee them going away or going anywhere, but it just made me realize we're vulnerable with all these platforms here. And I got a little behind this year. It just hadn't been a good year for me mental health wise, sorry, but I planned on starting a newsletter back earlier this year. A little behind on that, but I do want to start getting people's email addresses so I could somehow stay connected if one day, God forbid, my YouTube got hacked or my Instagram got hacked or my Facebook got hacked. So always in the description below is my email address along with a few other links. And if you will, if you want to, if you're interested in staying in touch and being there when I get my newsletter going, just go down there and send an email there and just let me know your email address. Oh, and I promise, let me make this real clear. Once I do start sending out a newsletter, it's not going to be, I'm not going to put people on a mailing list to bug them all the time. I will send out a newsletter with helpful information, pertinent information, and not all that often. So anyhow, that's the end of that. So people always want to know, like, when can you expect to see some results when you start eating a raw food diet? I mean, is this a long-term thing? Is it going to take a long time before you start seeing results, or is it fairly rapid, or what? People just don't know what to expect. And like most things, that's going to depend on you. There is no one answer for that. When I went vegan, when I went high raw, and I went high raw from the very beginning, so it's kind of harder for me to envision the transition type thing just because of the way that I stumbled onto this lifestyle. But when I became vegan, I went high raw right away. I was living in the tropics. I was living in San Jose, Costa Rica, and I had access to fruit and greens and all that kind of stuff. Plus, I was living in a warm climate. So I went very high raw immediately, and I saw results like absolutely immediately. What results did I see immediately? The results I saw immediately is my weight just started dropping. Now, that's something else I've talked about in other episodes of this on this channel or other videos on this channel, but actually to the point that, and I didn't know exactly what I was doing back then, and I wasn't eating correctly, and I wasn't eating enough, but my weight just plummeted. So the weight loss, depending on you, the weight loss can start immediately. I always had fairly decent digestion. At least I didn't have any major digestive issues, just in the average person of, little bit you don't eat right. So one day you're, a little bit of heartburn, a little bit of indigestion. One day you don't go to the bathroom. Another day you go too much. My digestion just boom, totally got like almost flawless. Actually, here's something I should mention to you on this lifestyle, and I'm going to kind of give you some ways to mitigate some of the side effects of starting this. For most people, this relates to the going to the bathroom a lot time. That is one thing. When I first started doing this lifestyle, I did go to the bathroom quite a bit. And later on, I learned that was because of, the amount of fiber that I was eating for the first time, that a lot of the food that I had been eating in the past didn't have, just really didn't contain fiber. So it did take a little while for my body to adapt and get used to that. Now, some people it can affect them differently. Some people can kind of get clogged up from the fiber. But what I would say there is make sure that you are staying hydrated on this lifestyle. Eat your hydration. When you're eating juicy fruits and lettuce and kale and all these things, there's water content in that. But also drink plenty of water, because that will help process that fiber. But yeah, I lost weight almost from the beginning. Ended up losing too much weight. I didn't know exactly what was going on, and my weight was just plummeting. Digestion was good. Energy level went through the roof. I had there's probably a little to do with that. I'd quit smoking about 6 months before I went vegan, so that probably had something to do with it. But energy level went right through the roof. I remember walking the city in San Jose like, I was 20 years younger. So yeah, those things can happen immediately. Now, why did I say that depends on the person? And it's not so much because everybody's body is different. Yes, we have differences, but I believe that has been beat to death. I believe that to be kind of a cliche because we're the same species. We're the same animal. Our bodies don't work totally different. I'm sorry. No, yes, we've experienced different things. And yes, there's always exceptions for people, but as a species, our experience on food does not vary that much. The thing being is so many people, and this is the only time it's really important when you're talking about your health, or really when you're talking about anything. You can tell me whatever. I'm smart enough. I'm going to know when you're like, no, that's not what you're really doing. If you are eating the right foods, most everybody, most, I don't need somebody to crawl out of the woodwork and give me their exceptional story. There are people out there. The body is a very strange organism. There's people out there that defy science, that defy medicine, whatever, of what's going on in their body. But for the average person, they're just not being real with themselves. They're not eating as clean as they think they're eating. They're putting garbage in their body. They're going back and forth, or like I talked about in a couple of videos ago, the dreaded baby steps. Anytime somebody tells you they're taking baby steps with their health, they're probably just goofing around a little bit. They might do a few habits the same, but it all depends on what you're putting in your body. It's not an exact formula. I can't give you an exact formula like saying, okay, you eat this much of this every day, you eat this much of this every day, you eat this much of this. But it basically is those things that I try to preach the fundamentals all the time on this channel. Fruit, if you're eating fruit, if you're eating your greens, if you're keeping your fat relatively low, if you're feeding the nutritional needs of your body, the results should just come. And sometimes when people aren't getting the results they want, they tend to hang on too long, or try to, or they either attribute it to the wrong reasons. I've known a few people, you guys remember Amanda, that had dealt with ulcerative colitis and a couple of things. Well, she had tried things a few times, didn't work, and then she tried what she needed to do, and it worked immediately. So a lot of these things that you think are long-term things, I'm going to have to start eating like this and then this will clear up a year or two down the road, not necessarily. Now, once again, there are some things that, it may take a little bit of time, and there are some conditions of the body that are more serious than others. So once again, I don't want to make it like I'm actually kind of playing lawyer here, because there's always somebody that will pick out one little thing and that's not true. So like I say, I'm not saying that it's not possible. There's some people, I have seen people like that before, that seem to eat the right things and they just struggle with their weight, or they struggle with this or that. But more or less, if we're feeding our bodies the things that it needs to eat, our body's going to perform accordingly. Listen, when I first came to this lifestyle, and I think this is what people get caught up in their own heads. They get caught up in weight loss. They get caught up in this or that. When I came to this lifestyle, all I did was just say, I'm going to learn how to feed my body the best. I'm going to learn how to make my body work as efficiently as possible for me. And that was it. And I just started, like I say, kind of studying all this stuff and trying to figure out what worked for my body. Okay, you guys know I like to share resources and give advice on books that I think would be helpful on this. Just to sum it up, and this is a good little trio of kind of how you hit this thing from every angle. Doesn't have to, listen, you don't have to, to be able to succeed on this lifestyle, to be healthy, to thrive, you can do this, you can learn about this without just watching nothing but raw food sources. In other words, right now, if I was going to give you my best advice, 3 books to read to really get your body healthy, and not just raw food. Although the first book I'll recommend is 80-10-10. Now, I don't follow the program 80-10-10. There's things in there that I don't necessarily agree with 100%, but that's a great book on just some of the basics of eating a high carb, fruit based, raw food diet. So I'd say 80-10-10. And take what you can use from there and figure, use what makes sense to you. Second book would be Fiber Fueled by Dr. B. His last name's a Polish name. It's always hard for me to say it, but Dr. B. I share him all the time on Instagram. And he talks about gut health. So we've got the kind of initiation, learning how to do it from a raw perspective. Getting tongue-tied there. And then I like Fiber Fuel because that's where our real health lies, within our gut. So he kind of explains how getting to that really healthy level of getting that microbiome that in your belly, all healthy. So that's number 2. And then I would say, just for a general one, Michael Greger, How Not to Die. All these things, even though Dr. Greger, Dr. B, they don't follow a raw diet. I've been able to take so much information from them and translate it over and use it in my raw diet. And like I said, I had just a note on transition. The one thing about transition too that people don't understand, number one, is people get all in their head about the symptoms, the detox symptoms, which I think is highly exaggerated. But you can control these detox symptoms. You don't have to jump in and go to the clean of the clean, and you hear these stories about having headaches all the time. Listen, think of transition as you're driving down the road. I've used this analogy before. You've got the gas. Transition. If transition becomes too much for you, you can always back off a little bit. You don't have to slam on the brake, just back off a little bit. Like I say, it'll make that transition so much easier for you if you're really making sure that you are hydrated while you're transitioning. But if it gets too much for you, you don't want to jump out of the car. Like I say, you just want to back off on the speed a little bit. And a lot of times that just means for some people, they try to go fully raw right off the bat. Some people it works for, some people it doesn't. But some people, if they would just, at certain parts during their transition, if they just eat a damn sweet potato sometime when things were about to go off the rail, that would be much better than the garbage they end up eating, because they just eventually spin out. But anyhow, don't get caught up in that trap of like, this is supposed to be a long-term thing. I've seen people that are still transitioning to a raw food diet 2 years later, or trying to do a raw food diet 2 years later. Boom, set your plan, set your transition plan. Doesn't have to be super fast, but don't make it, it doesn't need to get into years. You should be able to do a decent transition in 5 or 6 months if you plan it out, stick to it, and just use a little common sense. Anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed this video today. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up, and I might see you on this weekend for a video. Peace.